first thing I noticed when Madison's lawyer placed the prenuptial agreement on the polished mahogany table wasn't the thickness of the document, though at nearly 70 pages, it was substantial. No, what caught my attention was the way Madison wouldn't meet my eyes. After 3 years together and 6 months of engagement, I thought I knew every expression that crossed her face. But this one was new, a mixture of determination and something else. Guilt, perhaps. "It's just a formality, Daniel," Madison said, her voice carrying that practiced public relations smoothness she used for difficult clients. "Everyone in my position does this." I looked around the conference room of Harriman and Walsh, one of San Francisco's premier law firms. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the bay from the 45th floor, a perfect backdrop for what Madison clearly thought would be a simple transaction. Her lawyer, Eric Walsh, silver-haired, Ivy League pedigreed, with a watch that cost more than most people's cars, smiled blandly at me. "Take your time to review it," he said, sliding the document toward me, "though I assure you it's quite standard for someone with Ms. Harper's asset portfolio." I was a corporate mergers lawyer myself, not the kind who needed to rent impressive conference rooms to intimidate others, but the kind who understood exactly what standard meant in legal terminology. It meant standard for the person who had commissioned the document. I flipped through the pages methodically. With each turn, the asymmetry became more apparent. Madison's family wealth, the tech investments, the real estate holdings in Napa, the trust fund, all carefully cordoned off as separate property. Meanwhile, my assets, which while considerably less than hers were still substantial, would become increasingly communal the longer we stayed married. "You've had your own lawyer review this?" Walsh asked, his tone suggesting both that I should have and that no respectable lawyer would find issue with it. "I don't need another lawyer to tell me what this says," I replied evenly. I had spent 15 years handling mergers and acquisitions worth hundreds of millions. I knew an inequitable deal when I saw one. Madison finally looked at me directly. "Daniel, my parents insisted. You know how protective they are about the family holdings." I closed the document and placed it back on the table, noticing the monogram pen Walsh had positioned beside it. Ready for my signature. Ready for my capitulation. "Of course," I said. "I understand completely." Relief washed over Madison's face. She reached across to squeeze my hand. "Thank you, babe. I knew you'd get it." I stood up, straightening my tie. "I should go. I have a meeting downtown in 30 minutes. "But you haven't signed," Walsh interjected, gesturing to the document. "You're right," I said, picking up my briefcase. "I haven't." Madison's perfectly shaped eyebrows furrowed. "Daniel, we agreed to handle this today." "No," I corrected her gently. "You scheduled this meeting. I came as a courtesy." "Mr. Cole," Walsh began, professional but clearly annoyed, "these matters are best resolved efficiently. Perhaps if you have specific concerns, we could address them now?" I looked at them both. Madison in her cream designer suit that complemented her auburn hair, and Walsh with his practiced, concerned expression. They made a perfect tableau of wealth and entitlement. "I don't have concerns," I said. "I have a decision. No." "No?" Madison repeated, her PR polish cracking slightly. "No, I won't sign this agreement as it stands." Walsh cleared his throat. "Perhaps Ms. Harper and I should give you a moment to consider." "That won't be necessary," I interrupted. "Madison, I'll see you at home." As I walked to the elevator, I heard Madison's quick footsteps behind me. She caught up just as the doors were opening. "Daniel, what are you doing?" she hissed, careful to keep her voice down despite her obvious anger. "You're embarrassing me in front of my lawyer." I stepped into the elevator and turned to face her. "Embarrassing you? That's what you're worried about?" "You know how important this is to my family. To me." "I do now," I said as the doors began to close. "That's the problem." The last thing I saw was the stunned expression on her face. The face I had woken up to for 3 years. The face I had planned to see every morning for the rest of my life. I didn't go straight home that evening. Instead, I went to the Grant, an old-school bar downtown where the bartenders knew how to make a proper old-fashioned and the clientele was discreet. I needed to think. My phone vibrated constantly. Madison. Her texts evolved from confused to angry to pleading over the course of 2 hours. I ordered another drink and finally read through them. What happened today? Why did you walk out like that? Call me, please. My lawyer thinks you're being unreasonable. Daniel, this isn't like you. Are you seriously going to throw away what we have over this? I'm worried about you. Call me! The last one came with a timestamp from just 5 minutes ago. I put the phone face down on the bar. Trouble in paradise? The voice came from 2 stools down, a woman in her early 50s with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. I recognized her immediately. Laura Benson, one of the most respected trust attorneys in Northern California. Just contemplating the intersection of love and assets, I replied. She smiled and moved to the stool next to mine. The most complicated intersection in the human experience. I didn't expect to see you here, Laura. I could say the same. Aren't you supposed to be planning a wedding to Madison Harper? The society pages have been quite excited about it. I took a sip of my drink. News travels fast. In certain circles, yes. She signaled the bartender for another round. So what brings a soon-to-be married man to a bar alone, ignoring his phone? A prenuptial agreement. Laura nodded knowingly. Let me guess. The Harper family wants to protect their considerable assets. Right in one. And you object to that? I turned to face her directly. I object to being treated like a potential liability rather than a partner. Laura studied me for a moment. You know, Daniel, in my 30 years of practice, I've drawn up hundreds of prenuptial agreements. Want to know what I've learned? Please. It's never really about the money. It's about trust, or the lack of it. The bartender set fresh drinks in front of us. I thanked him and considered Laura's words. So what are you going to do? She asked after a moment. I don't know yet, but even as I said it, I realized it wasn't entirely true. An idea had been forming in my mind since I'd left that conference room. Well, when you do know, Laura said, pulling out a business card and sliding it toward me, give me a call. Sometimes a trust attorney is exactly what you need, especially when trust is what's missing. I pocketed her card. I might just do that. By the time I arrived at our Pacific Heights home, it was past 11. The lights were still on. Madison was waiting. She was sitting in our living room, still in her work clothes, an untouched glass of wine on the coffee table in front of her. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Where have you been? She asked quietly as I set down my keys. Thinking. For 6 hours? Without answering my calls or texts? I removed my jacket and loosened my tie. Yes. Madison stood up, her composure finally breaking. What the hell, Daniel? You walk out of the meeting, disappear all day, and all you can say is yes. What's going on with you? I could ask you the same question, I replied, keeping my voice level. What were you thinking, Madison? That prenup is completely one-sided. It's standard protection for you, I interrupted. Not for us, not for me. She took a deep breath, visibly trying to regain control. Daniel, my family has significant assets to protect. You know this. We've discussed it. We discussed a fair agreement that would protect both of us. What you presented today was not that. So you're upset about the specific terms? We can negotiate those. You didn't have to walk out. I walked to the bar cart in the corner of the room and poured myself a scotch, though I'd already had enough at the Grant. Do you know what bothered me most? Not the terms themselves, though they were insulting. It was watching you sit there with your lawyer, presenting this document as if it were some minor detail to check off a list. That's not fair, isn't it? You've spent 3 years telling me we're partners equals. Then I see this document that clearly states otherwise. Madison approached me, her expression softening. Daniel, I love you. This doesn't change that. It's just business. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Just business. In that moment, everything crystallized for me. That's exactly the problem, Madison. To you, this is just business. To me, it's our life together. You're overreacting, she said, reaching for my hand. Let's sleep on it. Tomorrow we can call Eric, make some revisions. I pulled my hand away. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. Her face hardened. So that's it? You're going to punish me over this? I'm not punishing you, Madison. I just need some space to think. As I walked toward the guest room, she called after me. Daniel, don't do this. We're getting married in 4 months. I paused but didn't turn around. Maybe we need to reconsider that timeline. I heard her sharp intake of breath, but I kept walking. That night I barely slept. Instead I made plans. The next morning I left before Madison woke up. I had appointments to keep. My first stop was my bank, where I spent an hour with the manager closing joint accounts and transferring my assets to new ones solely in my name. Next came meetings with my financial advisor and my own lawyer. By noon, I had executed the first phase of my plan. At 1 o'clock, I called Lara Benson. That was quick, she said when her assistant put me through. I'm a decisive person when I need to be, I replied. Do you have time to meet today? For you? I'll make time. 4 o'clock, my office? Perfect. I spent the intervening hours making more calls, shifting more assets. Years of working in corporate law had taught me how to move quickly and efficiently when necessary. Lara's office was understated but elegant, much like the woman herself. She listened without interruption as I explained what I wanted to do. A co-legacy trust, she mused when I finished, irrevocable, with specific transfer conditions. It's aggressive, Daniel. You're essentially placing a significant portion of your assets beyond Madison's reach, permanently. That's the idea. You do realize this is exactly what her prenup was trying to do, just in reverse? I shook my head. No, there's a fundamental difference. Her prenup was presented as an ultimatum after 3 years together. This is me protecting myself in response to a demonstrated lack of trust. Lara leaned back in her chair. And if you reconcile, these assets will still be in the trust. If we reconcile, it will be on equal footing. This trust doesn't protect me from Madison. It protects me from the version of Madison who thinks a one-sided contract is just business. She nodded slowly. I can draw up the papers by tomorrow. But Daniel, are you sure? This is a significant step. I'm sure. All right then. She made some notes on a legal pad. One more thing. Once this is done, it's not easily undone. Are you prepared for the consequences? I thought about Madison's face in that conference room, the casual way she had dismissed my concerns, the fundamental misunderstanding of what partnership meant to me. Yes, I said firmly, I'm prepared. When I returned home that evening, Madison was waiting, but this time she wasn't alone. Eric Walsh sat beside her on our sofa, his briefcase open on our coffee table. Daniel, Madison said, rising as I entered, Eric has brought a revised agreement for us to discuss. I set down my keys and looked between them. You brought your lawyer to our home? After yesterday, I thought it might help to have Eric explain some of the legal detail, she replied, her tone reasonable, conciliatory. Walsh stood and extended his hand. Mr. Cole, I believe we got off on the wrong foot. Perhaps we could start fresh. I ignored his outstretched hand. Madison, could I speak with you privately? Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Eric. He's here to help us. No, I said firmly. He's here to help you. And the fact that you don't see the difference is exactly the problem. Walsh cleared his throat. Perhaps I should give you two a moment. That won't be necessary, I interrupted. I won't be discussing any agreement tonight. Madison's carefully maintained composure began to crack. Daniel, you're being unreasonable. Eric has made significant changes based on your concerns. My concerns weren't about specific clauses, Madison. They were about what this whole process reveals about us, about you. What is that supposed to mean? I looked directly at her. It means I've been doing some thinking of my own today, and some acting too. What are you talking about? There was a new note in her voice now, uncertainty. Mr. Cole, Walsh interjected, whatever steps you're contemplating, I strongly advise against making hasty decisions in an emotional moment. I laughed, genuinely amused by his attempt at intervention. That's rich coming from the man who expected me to sign a 70-page document without proper review yesterday. Daniel, stop it, Madison snapped. What have you done? I protected myself, I said simply, just like you tried to do. The color drained from Madison's face. What does that mean? It means I've moved my assets into a trust. As of 4 hours ago, they're secure, regardless of what happens between us. Walsh's professional demeanor slipped. You did what? You heard me, I replied calmly. Now, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave my home, Mr. Walsh. Madison and I need to talk privately. Walsh looked to Madison, who nodded numbly. He gathered his papers quickly. "Call me tomorrow," he murmured to her before making a hasty exit. When the door closed behind him, Madison rounded on me. "How dare you? You complain about my prenup, then go behind my back and hide your assets. The difference is, I'm being transparent about it now. You presented your prenup as a fait accompli." "So this is revenge?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Some childish tit for tat?" "No, Madison. This is self-preservation. You showed me yesterday exactly how you view our relationship, as a business arrangement with escape clauses. I'm simply adjusting to that reality." She sank onto the sofa, her anger giving way to shock. "I can't believe you did this." "Believe it," I said, feeling oddly calm. "Now we have a choice to make. We can either end this now, with both our assets protected, or we can start over, with real trust, real partnership." "Start over? After what you just did?" "Yes, after what we both did." Madison stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "I don't even know who you are right now." "I'm the same person I've always been. The question is, who are you?" "The woman I thought I knew wouldn't have ambushed me with that prenup." She stood up abruptly. "I need some air, and some time to think." "Take all the time you need," I replied. "I'll be staying at the Fairmont tonight. Call me when you're ready to talk, really talk." As I packed an overnight bag, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and liberation. Whatever happened next, I had taken control of my own narrative. I was just checking into the hotel when my phone rang. Not Madison as I'd expected, but Laura Benson. "Daniel, we have a problem," she said without preamble. "Walsh just called me. He's threatening an emergency injunction in the morning to freeze the trust transactions." "On what grounds?" "He's claiming fraudulent intent to deprive a future spouse of marital assets. It's weak, but it could cause delays, create a paper trail you don't want." I walked to the window of my hotel room, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. Can he succeed? Unlikely. The trust is solid. But Daniel, this is getting ugly fast. "Let it get ugly," I said, surprising myself with the hardness in my voice. "Madison wants to play hardball? Fine. I've spent my career handling corporate raiders and hostile takeovers. I can handle one angry fiancée and her attack dog lawyer." Laura was silent for a moment. "This isn't a corporate deal, Daniel. This is your life, your future." "Yes," I agreed, "my future, not Madison's to dictate on her terms." "All right," she sighed. "I'll prepare for court, just in case. But Daniel, try to get some sleep. These things always look different in the morning." But I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I worked, sending emails to trusted colleagues, making more arrangements. By dawn, I had lined up my own legal team, not just Laura, but specialists in family law and estate planning. At 8:30 the next morning, as I was having coffee in the hotel restaurant, my phone rang again. This time, it was Walsh himself. "Cole," he said, his usual polished tone replaced by barely controlled anger. "What the hell have you done?" "Good morning to you too, Eric," I replied calmly. "I thought my actions were quite clear. Do you have any idea of the legal mess you've created? The Cole Legacy Trust? Transferring your Pacific Heights property share to a Wyoming holding company? Converting liquid assets to cryptocurrency? Are you trying to play games here?" I took a sip of my coffee. "No games, Eric. Just protecting my interests, exactly as you advised Madison to do. This is different, and you know it." His voice dropped to a furious whisper. "Madison is devastated. She thinks you planned this all along." That stung, despite everything. "I didn't plan anything until I saw that prenup, Eric. Everything I've done has been reactive, not preemptive." "Reactive? You executed a complex asset protection strategy in less than 24 hours. No one's buying that this was spontaneous." "You'd be surprised what motivated people can accomplish," I replied. "Now, was there a purpose to this call beyond expressing your displeasure?" There was a pause, then Walsh's tone changed, becoming more measured. "Madison wants to meet, to talk this through, face to face." "Where and when?" "Our offices, noon today." I chuckled. "No, neutral ground. The Japanese garden in Golden Gate Park. 3 o'clock. "This isn't a negotiation, Cole." "That's where you're wrong, Eric. This is exactly a negotiation. It's just not one where you hold all the cards anymore." 3 o'clock. Madison only. No lawyers. Another pause. Longer this time. I could almost hear him weighing his options, realizing he had fewer than he'd thought. Fine, he finally conceded. I'll tell her. 3 o'clock. But Daniel, if you're using this meeting to hurt her more than you already have, I swear. Save the threats, Eric. Unlike you, I don't need to posture. Tell Madison I'll be there, and I'll be ready to listen. If she is. I ended the call and signaled for the check. I had preparations to make before meeting Madison. This conversation would determine everything that followed. The Japanese tea garden was quiet on a Thursday afternoon. I found a bench near the koi pond and waited. At precisely 3 o'clock, I saw Madison enter through the main gate. She wore sunglasses despite the overcast day, but they couldn't hide the tension in her face. She sat beside me without speaking. For a full minute, we both watched the orange and white fish glide beneath the surface of the pond. You look tired, I finally said. She removed her sunglasses, revealing red-rimmed eyes. How did you expect me to look after what you've done? About the same as I looked after what you did, I replied evenly. Madison turned to face me directly. Is this really how it ends? 3 years together, destroyed over money? That's up to you, Madison. This was never about money for me. Then what was it about? Revenge? Pride? Proving you're smarter than my lawyer? I shook my head. It was about equality, partnership, the things I thought we had until I saw that prenup. She looked away. The prenup was my parents' idea. They insisted. And you went along with it, had it drafted to their specifications, scheduled the meeting, sat there while I was ambushed. I didn't think you'd react like this, she whispered. Then you don't know me at all, I said quietly. And that's the real problem, isn't it? Madison wiped away a tear. So what now? We both have our assets, locked away from each other. What's left? That depends on what you want, Madison. If it's the Madison I thought I knew, the woman I fell in love with, then maybe we start over. Build something real this time. And if it's not, if I can't be that perfect woman you thought I was? I looked out at the carefully manicured garden, the deliberate placement of every stone and plant, creating an illusion of natural beauty. Our relationship had been like that too. Something crafted to appear perfect, but ultimately artificial. Then we go our separate ways, I said. No drama, no public spectacle. We both have what we want, protected. Madison let out a bitter laugh. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Not everything, I admitted. I never thought we'd be sitting here having this conversation. She was silent for a long moment, then asked, Did you ever love me, Daniel? Really love me? The question caught me off guard. Of course I did, I still do. That's why this hurts so much. Then why couldn't you understand that the prenup wasn't personal? It was just protection. Because love isn't about protection, Madison. It's about vulnerability. It's about risk. If you're not willing to risk anything, then what are we really building together? She stood up suddenly. I need to think. About us. About what I want. About who I am. I remained seated. Take all the time you need. And the trust. The assets you moved. They stay where they are for now, I said firmly. Just like I assume your family wealth remains protected. Madison looked down at me, a mixture of sadness and something else. Respect, perhaps, in her eyes. I never saw this side of you before. It was always there, I replied. You just never pushed hard enough to find it. She nodded once, put her sunglasses back on, and walked away. I watched her disappear through the garden gate, wondering if it was the last time I would see her, and surprised by how calm I felt at the prospect. The next day I moved back into our home. Madison had left a note saying she was staying with her parents for a few days. I used the time to settle back into a routine, going to work, hitting the gym, calling friends I had neglected during the intense courtship with Madison. 3 days passed with no word from her. Then on the 4th day, as I was reviewing documents in my home office, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find not Madison, but her father, Robert Harper, a tech industry veteran who had made his fortune in the early days of Silicon Valley. Robert was a formidable figure, tall, silver-haired, with the confident bearing of a man unused to hearing the word no. Mr. Harper, I said, genuinely surprised. This is unexpected. Daniel, he replied with a curt nod. May I come in? I stepped aside to let him enter, leading him to the living room. Can I offer you a drink? No, thank you. This won't take long. He remained standing, surveying the room as if taking inventory. This was technically his daughter's house, purchased with Harper family money, though Madison and I had both contributed to the renovations. I understand you and Madison are having difficulties, he began, his tone measured. That's one way of putting it. My daughter is quite upset. I met his gaze directly. So am I, Mr. Harper. He nodded, as if my response confirmed something for him. Madison showed me the prenuptial agreement and explained your countermeasures. I said nothing, waiting. It was a clever move, he continued, surprising me, creating that trust so quickly, transferring the property interest. The cryptocurrency diversification was especially impressive. Thank you, I replied cautiously. But I doubt you came here to admire my financial planning skills. Robert Harper smiled faintly. No, I didn't. I came to understand the man my daughter wants to marry. The prenup was my idea, you know. I gathered as much. Madison resisted at first, said you'd see it as a lack of trust. This was new information. She did. Oh yes, quite adamantly. But I insisted. The Harper family wealth goes back 3 generations, Daniel. I've seen too many fortunes diluted by divorce. I gestured to the sofa. Perhaps you should sit after all, Mr. Harper. This might take longer than you thought. He considered for a moment, then sat. I took the chair opposite him. What Madison didn't tell you, he continued, is that I had 2 versions of the agreement drafted. The one you saw and a more balanced one that protected both parties. I insisted she present the more aggressive version first, as a negotiating tactic. I felt a cold anger building inside me. A negotiating tactic. You were testing me. In a manner of speaking, yes. He had the grace to look slightly abashed. I wanted to see how you'd respond to pressure. Whether you'd simply sign to please Madison or stand your ground. Am I creating the trust? Moving my assets? What did that tell you? Robert Harper smiled fully now. That you're exactly the kind of man I hoped you were. Someone who won't be pushed around, even by the Harpers. I stood up, too agitated to remain seated. So this was all some elaborate test? Do you have any idea of the damage you've caused? Damage? He seemed genuinely puzzled. I've merely confirmed that my daughter is marrying someone with backbone, someone worthy of joining our family. Worthy? I repeated incredulously. Mr. Harper, this isn't medieval times. I wasn't seeking your daughter's hand from her liege lord. Perhaps not, he conceded, but you must understand, the Harper name carries certain expectations, certain requirements. And Madison, does she know about this test? Robert's expression clouded slightly. Not in so many words. She believes I'm here to try to reconcile you two, which you are, but only because I passed your test. Precisely. I walked to the window, trying to process this new information. Robert Harper had manipulated not just me, but his own daughter, creating a rift between us to satisfy his own need for control. Mr. Harper, I said finally, turning back to him, I appreciate your candor, but I think you should leave now. He looked surprised. Leave? But we haven't resolved anything. There's nothing to resolve between you and me. This is between Madison and me now, and it's not about the prenup anymore, or the trust, or any of the financial arrangements. It's about trust of a different kind. I don't understand. I know you don't, I said. And that's the problem. You view relationships as transactions, tests to pass or fail. Madison and I have to decide if we see things the same way. Robert Harper stood, his expression hardening. You're making a mistake, Daniel. The Harpers can be powerful allies or formidable adversaries. Is that a threat, Mr. Harper? A reality check. My daughter loves you, for whatever reason. I'm willing to accept you. Don't throw that away over pride. I walked to the front door and opened it. I'll take my chances. Good day, Mr. Harper. After he left, I poured myself a scotch and called Lara Benson. How quickly can we dissolve the trust if necessary? I asked when she answered. That's a complicated question, she replied. Why? What's happened? I explained my conversation with Robert Harper. Laura listened without interrupting, but I could hear her taking notes. So now I need to know, I finished, if Madison and I can work this out, how do we unwind all of this? It's possible, she said cautiously, but not simple. The trust was designed to be irrevocable specifically to protect against claims in a divorce scenario. But if there's no divorce, if we move forward together, there must be a way. Laura was silent for a moment. There is a provision for mutual dissolution under certain circumstances. But Daniel, are you sure? After what her father just revealed? I don't know, I admitted. I need to talk to Madison first. Really talk, without her father's manipulation or her lawyer's presence. Then do that, Laura advised. The trust isn't going anywhere for now. Take your time. Figure out what you both want. After we hung up, I texted Madison. We need to talk. Just us. No parents, no lawyers. When you're ready. Her reply came almost immediately. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., our house. The next evening, I prepared the house for our conversation. I wanted Madison to feel comfortable, to remember what we had before all this legal maneuvering began. I put fresh flowers in the living room, opened a bottle of the Barolo we'd discovered on our trip to Italy the previous year, and waited. Madison arrived exactly at 7. She looked tired but resolute as she hung up her coat. Thank you for coming, I said. This is still my house too, she replied, but without much heat. We sat in the living room, the weight of unspoken words filling the space between us. Finally, Madison spoke. My father told me about his visit, about the test he arranged without my knowledge. I nodded. I thought he might. I'm sorry, Daniel. I had no idea he would do something like that. Do you believe him? That it was all a test? Madison set down her glass. Yes and no. The test part, yes. That's classic Robert Harper. But the prenup itself was real. He genuinely wanted those protections in place. And you? What did you want? She met my eyes directly. I wanted to marry you. The prenup was an obstacle to overcome. I thought you'd negotiate some changes, we'd reach a compromise and move forward. I never imagined you'd walk away, or that you'd create that trust. I leaned forward. Madison, I need to know something. If there had been no prenup, no pressure from your father, what kind of marriage were you envisioning for us? Truly? She thought for a long moment before answering. I saw us as partners, equal contributors, even if the financial numbers weren't exactly the same. I saw us building something together, not just protecting what we brought in separately. That's what I saw too, I said quietly. Then why are we here? Why did this happen? I took a deep breath. Because we let other people, your father, your lawyer, dictate the terms of our relationship. We stopped talking directly to each other. Madison nodded slowly. So where do we go from here? Can we undo what's been done? Technically, yes. The trust can be dissolved under certain conditions. Your prenup can be rewritten or discarded entirely. But the real question is whether we should try to go back to where we were. What's the alternative? I reached across and took her hand. We start over. Clean slate. We throw out the old scripts, the Harper family expectations, my defensive reactions, and write a new one. Together. Madison's eyes filled with tears. Can we really do that? After everything that's happened? I don't know, I admitted, but I think it's worth trying. If we both want it enough. She squeezed my hand. I want to try, Daniel. I really do. But I need time to process everything, to figure out who I am outside of my father's influence. Take all the time you need, I said. I'm not going anywhere. Madison stood, wiping away tears. I should go. I'm staying at the Sonoma Inn for a few days. I need some space, some perspective. Of course, I said, walking her to the door. Call me when you're ready to talk more. She paused at the threshold, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Thank you, Daniel, for being willing to try again. After Madison left, I felt both hopeful and apprehensive. We had taken a small step forward, but the road ahead was still uncertain. 2 days passed with no word from Madison. I respected her need for space, though it was difficult not to reach out. On the 3rd day, I received a call from Laura Benson. Daniel, have you heard from Madison? Not since our talk the other night. Why? There was a pause on the line. Eric Walsh called me this morning. He seemed concerned. Apparently, Madison hasn't been answering his calls either. A faint sense of unease began to build. That's not like her. Madison always returns calls even when she's upset. That's what Walsh said too. He mentioned she was staying at some inn in Sonoma. The Sonoma Inn, I confirmed. I could drive up there, check on her. It might not be a bad idea, Lara said carefully, just to be sure everything's all right. I called the inn immediately, but they wouldn't confirm whether Madison was still a guest. Privacy policy. I decided to drive there anyway, a knot of worry growing in my stomach. The Sonoma Inn was a picturesque boutique hotel nestled among vineyards, the kind of place Madison had always loved. Quiet, elegant, away from the city's constant pace. I parked and approached the front desk, where a young woman with a professional smile greeted me. I'm looking for Madison Harper, I said. She's staying here, but I haven't been able to reach her. I'm her fiancé. The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. Oh, Mr. Cole. Yes, how did you know my name? She looked uncomfortable. Perhaps you should speak with our manager, Mr. Reynolds. One moment. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man in a tailored suit appeared. Mr. Cole, I'm David Reynolds, the manager. Could we speak privately? He led me to a small office off the lobby, closed the door, and turned to face me with a grave expression. Mr. Cole, I'm afraid I have some concerning news. Ms. Harper checked out abruptly yesterday morning. Did she say where she was going? No, but she seemed distressed. She left instructions that no one was to be informed of her departure, but given the circumstances... What circumstances? My voice was sharper than I intended. Reynolds hesitated. She left a sealed envelope at the desk. For you. She said if anyone came looking for her, we should give it to you and only you. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer and handed it to me. My name was written on it in Madison's elegant handwriting. Thank you, I said, my mouth suddenly dry. Is there anything else? Only that she paid her bill in cash, which is unusual for our guests, and she asked for her rental car to be brought around to the back entrance. I nodded, clutching the envelope. I appreciate your help, Mr. Reynolds. Once in my car, I stared at the envelope for a long moment before opening it. Inside was a single page of hotel stationery, covered in Madison's handwriting. Daniel, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, not just from the inn, but from our life together. These past days have forced me to confront truths I've been avoiding for years, about myself, about my father, about who I've become under his influence. Our conversation showed me something painful. I don't know who I am without the Harper name, the Harper fortune, the Harper expectations. I've been my father's daughter for so long that Madison herself has disappeared. You were right about the prenup, about everything. It was never about protecting assets. It was about control. My father's control over me, and by extension, over you, over us. I see that now and it makes me ashamed. I need to find myself, Daniel. The real Madison, not the Harper heiress. I can't do that while tied to either my father or to you. Please don't try to find me. I've arranged everything carefully. By the time anyone realizes I'm truly gone, I'll be somewhere new, starting over with nothing but what I can earn myself. I release you from any obligation to me. The house, our shared possessions. Take what matters to you and let the rest go. I won't be coming back for any of it. I did love you, Daniel. More than I knew how to show, but I wasn't the partner you deserved. I was just playing a role written by my father. You deserve better than that. You deserve truth. Forgive me for leaving this way, but it's the only clean break I could imagine. Madison. I sat in the car for a long time, reading the letter over and over. My emotions cycled between shock, anger, concern, and finally a surprising sense of understanding. Madison was doing what she thought necessary to break free from patterns that had defined her entire life. Over the next few days, I worked with Lara to officially dissolve the Cole Legacy Trust. There was no point in maintaining it now. I also reached out to Walsh, sharing what I knew about Madison's disappearance. He was professionally concerned, but not particularly surprised. The Harpers are already managing the situation, he told me. Robert has put out a story that Madison is taking an extended sabbatical overseas. It's all very discreet. He's not actually looking for her, is he? I asked. Not actively, Walsh admitted. Robert Harper doesn't handle rejection well, even from his daughter, especially from his daughter. Weeks passed. I gradually adjusted to Madison's absence, focusing on work and rebuilding the social connections I had neglected during our relationship. Sometimes I wondered where she was, whether she had found what she was looking for. I hoped she had. 2 months after her disappearance, I received another envelope, this time by courier with no return address. Inside was a brief note. Daniel, I'm safe and well. I've found work that challenges me, friends who know nothing of the Harpers, and a small apartment that's truly mine. For the first time, I'm living honestly. I won't tell you where I am, please respect that. But I wanted you to know that I don't regret my decision. It was necessary. I hope you're finding your way forward too, Madison. I folded the note carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. It was the closure I needed, confirmation that Madison was all right and that her departure had been a choice, not a desperate act. I could finally let her go completely. Life moved on. I dated casually, focused on my career, traveled. The Harper Prenup incident became a story I occasionally told close friends over drinks. A cautionary tale about love, money, and control. Nearly a year after Madison left, I was at a conference in Santa Monica. After a day of panels and networking, I decided to take a walk along the beach to clear my head. As I strolled, my phone rang, Eric Walsh's number, a call I hadn't expected. Eric, I answered, this is unexpected. Daniel, he said, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. There's no easy way to say this. It's about Madison. My heart stuttered. What about her? She's gone, Daniel. Really gone this time. She was found in her hotel room in Santa Monica this morning. They're calling it an overdose. I stopped walking. The world suddenly tilted on its axis. What? That's impossible. She was doing well. Starting over. The police found a letter, Walsh continued quietly, addressed to you. I'm sending someone to deliver it now. Where are you staying? I gave him my hotel information mechanically, my mind racing. Eric, what happened? Why was she in Santa Monica? Did you know where she was all this time? No, he said. No one did. Not until this. I'm sorry, Daniel. I truly am. After we hung up, I stood motionless on the beach, watching the waves roll in and out. Madison gone. The woman who had shared my life for 3 years, who had walked away to find herself, had now walked away permanently. It seemed impossible, inconceivable. An hour later, a courier delivered the final letter from Madison Harper. With shaking hands, I opened it. Daniel, if you're reading this, I've finally found the courage to let go completely. The past year has taught me so much about myself, about the person I was and the person I wanted to be. I've lived authentically, made my own money, failed on my own terms, and succeeded by my own efforts. But I've also discovered something painful. Some patterns are too deeply ingrained to break. My father's voice still echoes in my head. The Harper legacy still defines me, even in its absence. Last week he found me, confronted me in the small cafe where I've been working, offered to welcome me back to the family if I would just stop this nonsense, as he called it. When I refused, he told me I would never be anything without the Harper name and money, that I was nothing on my own. The worst part, for a moment I believed him, and in that moment I saw my future, always running, always fighting his voice in my head, always being defined by either acceptance or rejection of the Harper legacy, but never truly free of it. I won't live that way, Daniel. I won't be that person. Not his puppet, not even his rebel. I choose freedom. The only kind I can now see is possible. I wanted you to know that you were right all along, about the prenup, about my father, about what real partnership means. I'm sorry I couldn't be the partner you deserved. I hope someday you find someone worthy of the love you have to give. Please don't blame yourself. This choice is mine, alone, perhaps the only truly independent choice I've ever made. I wanted to win at life on my own terms, but I needed to understand what those terms really were. Goodbye, Daniel. Madison. I stood on the beach as the sun set, Madison's final words burning in my mind. She had sought freedom and found only another kind of prison. In trying to escape her father's control, she had discovered how deeply it had shaped her very identity. The next day, I attended the small private service the Harper family arranged. Robert Harper stood stiffly at the front, accepting condolences with a frozen expression. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, of a fellow traveler in grief. Or maybe it was something darker. Blame, regret, the acknowledgement of his role in his daughter's final choice. We didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. Afterward, I walked alone along the shore, near the hotel where Madison had spent her final hours. I thought about the woman I had loved, about the prenup that had revealed the fault lines in our relationship, about the trust I had created in response, how something as mundane as financial planning had exposed the deepest truths about who we were, separately and together. Madison had sought freedom and found only another kind of prison. In trying to escape her father's control, she had discovered how deeply it had shaped her very identity. The ultimate irony was that her final act, the one thing her father couldn't control or undo, was itself a response to his influence. I took the key to our Pacific Heights home from my pocket. The home we had shared, the home she had left behind. I looked at it one last time, then threw it far into the ocean. I watched it disappear beneath the waves, along with the last tangible connection to our shared past. In the end, Madison had written her own final prenuptial agreement, one that separated her not just from the Harper fortune, but from life itself. Her father's obsession with protecting assets had cost him the only thing of true value he possessed. As for me, I would move forward, carrying the lessons of our time together, about trust and control, about honesty and partnership, about the difference between protecting what you have and risking everything for what matters. I turned my back on the ocean and walked away. There was nothing left for me here, but memories and those I would carry with me wherever I went. No vengeance, no victory, only silence. The final accounting.